I thought I was just fighting for 3 days of peace in Maine after the hardest year of my life. But when I refused to watch my sister's children, I didn't realize I was pulling the thread that would unravel our entire family. What began as a guilt trip over a non-refundable ticket spiraled into a nightmare of stolen money and legal threats, proving that the people supposed to protect you are often the ones you need protection from the most. The sound of the zipper closing was the most beautiful thing I had heard in a year. It was a sharp, final rasp that signaled the end of my life in Harbor Point for the next 3 days and the beginning of something that belonged only to me. I stood in the center of my bedroom, staring at the medium-sized gray suitcase on my bed. It was 5 p.m. on a Friday in late October. Outside my window, the Massachusetts sky was a bruising purple, the wind stripping the last of the gold leaves from the maples lining the street. Inside, my apartment was perfectly still. I had spent the last hour methodically packing wool sweaters, a thick paperback novel I had been meaning to read for 6 months, and absolutely no laptop. I was 33 years old, and I was exhausted. This was not the pleasant fatigue of a workout or the satisfied tiredness of a job well done. This was a deep, marrow-level exhaustion that made my teeth ache. For the past 12 months, I had been the glue holding together projects at Redwood and Pike Solutions, managing million-dollar infrastructure timelines while my own life slowly eroded into a series of obligations. I had navigated a brutal fiscal quarter, the grief of losing my favorite aunt, and the constant, buzzing background radiation of my family's demands. I had told no one I was leaving. That was the key. If I told them, the dynamic would shift. The moment my family knew I had free time, or disposable income, or a moment of peace, a crisis would miraculously manifest to fill that void. It was a pattern I had identified years ago, but like a fool, I kept hoping it was a coincidence. This time, I was taking no chances. I had booked a small cabin in Kestrel Cove, Maine. It was 4 hours north. There was no Wi-Fi. There was a fireplace. And there was silence. I reached for my car keys, my heart doing a little flutter of anticipation. I was going to leave tonight. I would drive up, arrive late, and wake up to the sound of the ocean. Then, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I froze. The vibration against the wood sounded violent in the quiet room. I did not need to look at the screen to know who it was, but I looked anyway. Mallory, my older sister. I stared at the name, debating the consequences of ignoring it. If I did not answer, she would call again immediately. If I ignored that, she would text. If I ignored the text, she would call our mother, Gail. Then Mom would call me. Her voice pitched in that specific frequency of worry and accusation that made my chest tight. The sequence was as reliable as gravity. I picked up the phone. Hello? Eleanor. Thank God. Mallory's voice came through the speaker fast and breathless, layered with a forced cheer that instantly put my hackles up. What are you doing? You are home, right? I saw your car in the lot when I drove past earlier. She had driven past my apartment. I felt a flicker of irritation. Mallory lived 20 minutes away in the suburbs. She had no reason to be on my street unless she was checking on me. I am home, I said, keeping my voice level. I am just getting ready to head out. Head out? To the store? She did not wait for an answer. Listen, I feel terrible asking this so last minute, but I completely forgot to mention something. Brent has this work gala tomorrow night. It is huge. Like make or break for his networking, and our sitter just canceled on us. She has the flu or something. I closed my eyes. Mallory, I cannot. What do you mean? You cannot. The cheer evaporated, replaced by a sharp edge of incredulity. I have not even told you the time yet. It is just tomorrow evening. You are single. You do not have plans on a Saturday night that are more important than Brent's career. I actually do have plans, I said. I am going to Maine. I booked a trip. I am leaving right now. There was a silence on the other end, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was the silence of a predator recalibrating its attack. Maine? She asked. Why are you going to Maine in October? It is freezing. I am going for a break. Mal, I need to reset. I have had this booked for weeks. You never told me. Because I knew you would do this. I thought, but I did not say it. Instead, I said, it was a last-minute decision to finalize the date. Look, I am sorry about your sitter. Have you tried Mrs. Gable? Or that app you used last month? Mrs. Gable is visiting her grandkids, Mallory snapped. And I do not trust strangers from an app with Theo and Lila. They are sensitive kids. Eleanor, they know you. They love you. Theo was just asking about you yesterday. The weaponization of the children. Right on schedule. I loved my nephew and niece. Theo was 7. A bright, anxious boy who loved dinosaurs. And Lila was 5. A whirlwind of energy. I loved them, but I was not their parent. I cannot do it, Mallory, I said, firming my grip on the phone. I really need this time away. Maybe Brent's brother can help? Or maybe you can just reschedule the evening? Reschedule? Mallory let out a harsh, incredulous laugh. Eleanor, this is a non-refundable event. The tickets cost $300 a plate. We have already paid a reservation fee. We cannot just throw $600 in the trash because you want to go sit in a cabin and feel sorry for yourself. I am not feeling sorry for myself, I said, my voice rising slightly. I am taking a vacation. I work hard. Mallory, we all work hard, she shouted. You think I do not work hard? You think raising 2 kids is not work? You have no idea what it is like. Eleanor, you live in your quiet apartment with your nice salary and you have 0 responsibilities. I am asking for one night to help your sister so her husband does not look like a failure in front of his bosses. No, I said. I am sorry, but no. You are being incredibly selfish, she spat. I hope you enjoy your little trip while we scramble to fix the mess you caused. She hung up. I stood there, the silence of the room now tainted. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I hated saying no. I had been trained from childhood that saying no was an act of aggression, but I had to do this. I looked at my suitcase. I just needed to get in the car. Once I was on the highway, I would be safe. I grabbed the handle of the suitcase and wheeled it toward the door. My phone rang again. It had been less than 3 minutes. I looked at the screen. Mom. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but that would only prolong the inevitable. I answered. Eleanor, Gail Coleman said. She did not say hello. She used the tone she reserved for when I had broken something valuable as a child. Mallory just called me in tears. She is not in tears. Mom, I said, unlocking my front door and pulling my suitcase into the hallway. She is mad because I set a boundary. She is stressed, Eleanor, my mother corrected. She is under so much pressure. You know things have been tight for them. Brent needs this event. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Going on a vacation? Going on a vacation this specific weekend, Mom said. You could go next weekend. You could go anytime. Mallory has an obligation. Family supports family. Do you remember when you were in college and you needed money for that car repair? Who helped you? Mallory did. She was working 2 jobs and she gave you that money. I paid her back, I said, locking my door. I paid her back with interest, 10 years ago. That is not the point, Mom said. The point is that she was there for you. She supported this family first. She was the first one to get married, the first one to give us grandchildren. She has carried a heavy load, and now, when she asks for a tiny favor, you are running away to Maine? It is not running away, I said, walking toward the elevator. I am burnt out. Mom, I need 3 days. That is it. It is selfish, Mom said. The word hung in the air, heavy and familiar. You are 33 years old. Eleanor, you should be past this phase of only thinking about yourself. Mallory said the gala is for the Brightbrook Children's Fund. It is a very important cause. I stopped. My hand hovered over the elevator call button. The what? I asked. The Brightbrook Children's Fund, Mom repeated. She sounded like she was reading it off a piece of paper. It is a big charity thing. Since when do Mallory and Brent care about the Brightbrook Children's Fund? I asked. They are very involved in the community, Mom said defensively. Just because you do not pay attention to their lives does not mean they are not doing good things. Mallory has been talking about this for weeks. No, she has not, I said. I talk to her every couple of days. She has never mentioned Brightbrook. Not once. Well, maybe she did not want to bore you, Mom said. Since you are always so busy with your job. Something felt wrong. It was a small, discordant note in the symphony of guilt. Mallory was not charitable. She was social, yes, and she liked events where she could dress up and drink champagne, but she had never once volunteered for anything that did not directly benefit her social standing or her kids' school. And the name, Brightbrook Children's Fund, sounded generic. It sounded like the kind of name you made up when you were trying to sound impressive. Mom, I said, I am not canceling my trip. I am sorry they are in a bind, but I am not the only solution. I will text Mallory a list of sitters. I will even offer to pay for the sitter if money is the issue, but I am not staying. You are going to pay a stranger to watch your own flesh and blood? Mom asked, her voice dropping to a whisper of horror. That is cold, Eleanor. Even for you. I have to go, I said. I love you. Goodbye. I hung up and turned off my phone. I stood in the hallway, shaking. It was a physical reaction, the adrenaline flooding my system. I felt like I had just run a sprint. They were good at this. They were the masters of this. They knew exactly where to press to make me feel like a monster for wanting basic autonomy. I got into the elevator and rode it down to the garage. I needed to get out of Harbor Point. The city felt like it was closing in on me. I threw my suitcase into the trunk of my sedan. I got into the driver's seat and plugged my phone into the charger. I had to turn it back on to use the GPS for the back roads. I wanted to avoid the main highway traffic, but I promised myself I would not answer any calls. As the screen lit up, a flood of notifications cascaded down. 4 texts from Mallory. I opened them, against my better judgment. Image attachment. It was a photo of Theo and Lila sitting on their living room floor, looking up at the camera with wide, sad eyes. They were holding a hand-drawn sign that said, "We miss Auntie Elle." Mallory. They were so excited when I told them you were coming over. How am I supposed to explain to them that you chose a hotel room over them? Mallory. Look at this fee. Eleanor. We are literally losing money because of you. Image attachment. It was a screenshot of a digital invoice. It was cropped tightly. All I could see was a line item that said, reservation deposit, non-refundable, and the amount $600. I squinted at the image. The font looked strange. The spacing between the dollar sign and the number was uneven. It looked like something that had been typed into a generic invoice template, or maybe even edited. I texted back. I kept it cool. Professional. I channeled the project manager who dealt with difficult contractors every day. Eleanor. I did not agree to come over, so please do not tell the kids I'm coming. That is not fair to them. I cannot watch them. I am sending you the number for the agency we use at work for emergency childcare. They are fully vetted and bonded. I hit send. I backed out of my parking spot. I needed to drive. I needed to put miles between me and this insanity. I merged onto the street, the city lights blurring past me. I was angry, yes, but beneath the anger was a deep, aching sadness. Why did it always have to be this hard? Why did every interaction have to be a battle for territory? I remembered the invoice again, the Brightbrook Children's Fund. It felt rehearsed. Mallory's voice on the phone had sounded desperate, but also scripted. Make or break, non-refundable. These were buzzwords designed to trigger a reaction. My phone chimed again. A text. I glanced at it at the next red light, expecting another guilt bomb from Mallory or a lecture from Mom. It was an unknown number. Area code 617. Hi, Eleanor. This is Sarah from the Brightbrook coordinator team. Mallory Coleman passed along your number. Thank you so much for agreeing to the childcare arrangement for tomorrow evening. We are so relieved to have the family on board to help out. It makes the logistics much smoother. Please let me know if you need the address for the drop-off location or if you will be at the residence. I stared at the screen. The light turned green, and the car behind me honked, but I did not move. Thank you for agreeing. Drop-off location? A cold chill went through me that had nothing to do with the October air. Mallory had not just asked me and gotten angry when I said no. She had told people I said yes. She had given my number to a third party. And this Sarah, why was a coordinator for a charity gala involved in my sister's childcare? Why would I be dropping the kids off somewhere? If I was babysitting, I would be at Mallory's house. I pulled the car over to the curb, my hazard lights clicking in the rhythm of my racing heart. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not just a sister being dramatic. Mallory had set something in motion that I did not understand, and she had used my name to do it. I looked at the text again. We are so relieved. I was not going to Maine, not yet. I put the car in park and stared at the rain beginning to speckle the windshield. The piece of Kestrel Cove felt a million miles away. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over the unknown number. I needed to know what lie my sister had told, and I needed to know why a stranger thought I was part of it. I typed a reply, my fingers shaking slightly. Who is this? No, too aggressive. I deleted it. I took a breath. I needed to be smart. I needed to document this. I took a screenshot of the text. Then I took a screenshot of the call log showing Mallory's calls and Mom's call. I looked at the text from Sarah one more time. The language was professional but odd. Childcare arrangement, not babysitting. I had the sudden, sinking realization that the no I had said on the phone meant absolutely nothing to the people operating in Mallory's reality. To them, I was already a piece on the board. I gripped the steering wheel. I was not going to let them do this. I was not going to be the safety net they could deploy without my consent. But as I sat there in the darkening street, the intuition that had served me so well in my career whispered that this was bigger than a Saturday night. The non-refundable money, the cropped screenshot, the unknown coordinator. Mallory was desperate, and desperate people were dangerous. I put the car back in drive, but instead of heading toward the highway north, I turned the wheel toward the east, toward the ocean, toward the edge of town where I could think. I wasn't turning back to go to Mallory's. I was turning to find a place to make a call where no one could corner me. The trip was paused. The war had begun. I stared at the screenshot of the text message from Sarah. The mysterious coordinator. The glow of the phone screen was the only light in my car, illuminating the fine dust on the dashboard and the tightness of my knuckles as I gripped the device. My sister had not just ignored my refusal, she had erased it. By giving my number to a third party, she had created a social contract on my behalf, banking on the fact that I would be too polite to embarrass her by breaking it. She was wrong. I dialed Mallory's number. I did not wait for her to say hello. "Who is Sarah?" I asked. My voice was low, steady, and stripped of any sisterly warmth. Mallory sighed, a loud, exaggerated exhale that crackled through the speaker. "Oh, my God. Eleanor, are you still on this? Sarah is the event lead for the Brightbrook thing. I just wanted to connect you two so you knew where to take the kids. It is a safety thing. I am being a responsible parent." "I told you no," I said. "I told you I have a trip booked. I told you I'm not available. Why did you give a stranger my number and tell her I agreed?" "Because I knew you would come around," Mallory said. Her tone was breezy, dismissive, as if we were discussing where to order pizza rather than my autonomy. "You always do this, Elle. You panic. You say no because you are stressed, and then you realize family is more important and you step up. I was just skipping the drama phase to save us time." "My consent is not a phase," I said. "I am not coming around. You need to call this Sarah person back right now and tell her you lied." "I did not lie." Mallory's voice spiked, sharp and defensive. "I made an executive decision. Look, Brent and I are under a massive amount of pressure right now. You have no idea. This event is non-refundable. If we do not go, we lose face. We lose opportunity. Do you want to be the reason Brent gets passed over for a promotion? Do you want to be the reason your niece and nephew do not get to go to summer camp next year because we are broke? Stop, I said. Do not put that on me. If the event is that critical, you should have secured childcare weeks ago. You cannot commandeer my weekend 5 minutes before I leave town. You are not leaving town, Mallory said, sounding frighteningly confident. You are sitting in your car feeling guilty. I know you. Eleanor, you are a good person. You are not going to leave 2 little kids in the lurch. Sarah is expecting you at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Just do it. We will owe you one. Seriously, I have to go. I have to get my hair done. Mallory, if you hang up, the line went dead. I stared at the phone, my chest heaving. It was the confidence that rattled me. She was so sure of her control over me that she did not even feel the need to argue. She simply stated my reality for me and expected me to inhabit it. I needed to verify the reality. I pulled up the unknown number for Sarah and hit call. It rang 4 times. I was about to hang up when a breathless voice answered. Hello? Sarah speaking? Hi. Sarah? I said, pitching my voice to be professional but firm. This is Eleanor Coleman. You just texted me about childcare for Mallory Coleman's children. Oh, hi. Sarah sounded young, perhaps early 20s, and overly enthusiastic. Yes, thank you so much for getting back to me. Mallory said you were a little hard to reach because of work, but that you were totally on board. We really appreciate it. The donor dinner is a logistical nightmare, and having the kids handled is a huge weight off our shoulders. Sarah, I said, I need you to listen to me carefully. I did not agree to this. I am not available to watch the children. I am leaving the state tonight. Mallory provided you with false information. There was a silence on the other end. It was the confused, heavy silence of someone whose script had just been shredded. Oh, Sarah said. Her voice dropped an octave. But Mallory sent over the confirmation form. She put your name down as the primary caregiver for the evening. It is already in the file. A file? I asked. For a babysitter? Well, it is for the liability waiver, Sarah said, stumbling over the words. For the event, since the kids are, since they are part of the program, look, I am just an intern. Honestly, I just organized the spreadsheet. Mallory told me it was done. If you are not coming, that is a big problem. Part of what program? I asked. I thought this was a gala. It is, Sarah said. She sounded panicked now. I really should not be discussing the details if you are not the guardian. I have to go. I have to call my supervisor. Wait, I said. Who is your supervisor? Is this Brightbrook? I have to go, Sarah said, and she hung up even faster than Mallory had. I sat in the idling car, the windshield wipers slapping back and forth against the drizzle. Part of the program, liability waiver, intern. This did not smell like a charity gala. It smelled like a production, and the fact that an intern was terrified to talk to me suggested that the stakes were higher than a simple missed dinner. I needed a reality check. I needed someone who was not inside the Coleman family distortion field. I called Tessa Nguyen. Tessa was a paralegal at Hearthstone Legal Group, but more importantly, she was the only person I knew who could look at a burning building and calmly ask if the insurance was up to date. We had been friends since college. Hey, Tessa answered. I am making risotto. This better be good. Mallory is trying to force me to babysit by telling a third party I already agreed, I said. She has given my name and number to a charity organization, and they have me listed on a liability waiver I never saw. Tessa did not ask if I was okay. She went straight to the facts. Did you sign anything? No. Did you verbally agree to anything? No. I said no repeatedly. Did she acknowledge your refusal? Yes, and then she ignored it. She said she made an executive decision. Okay, Tessa said. I could hear the sound of a wooden spoon scraping a pot. Here is the situation. Legally, she cannot bind you to a contract without your consent. That waiver is void if you did not sign it. But socially and familiarly, she is building a trap. If you just don't show up, she will spin the narrative that you flaked. She will make you the villain who endangered the kids or ruined the charity event. She is already doing that, I said. Then you need to stop arguing and start documenting, Tessa said. Stop calling her. Stop talking to her. Voice conversations are smoke. They vanish. You need bricks. You need text and email. You need to create a record that shows, unequivocally, that you informed her you were unavailable. You need to do it now, and you need to be cold. I feel like I'm suing my own sister, I said, rubbing my temple. You are not suing her, Tessa said. You are building a shield. People like Mallory operate in the gray areas of emotional obligation. You have to turn on the floodlights, send a text, make it formal. Do not apologize. Do not offer excuses. Just state the fact. Okay, I said. What do I say? Write this down, Tessa commanded. I put the call on speaker and opened my messaging app. Right. Mallory, I am stating this clearly for the record. I did not agree to babysit Theo and Lila this weekend. I informed you I was unavailable. Do not represent to anyone that I will be there. You need to arrange other childcare immediately. I am proceeding with my own plans. I typed it out. It looked harsh on the screen. It looked like a lawyer wrote it. Send it, Tessa said, and then save everything. Screenshots of her texts, the call logs, the text from the intern, everything. If she escalates, you want a timeline. Thanks, Tess. Go to Maine. Eleanor, she said softly. Turn off your phone and drink some wine. Let them figure it out. I hit send. I felt a brief, dark satisfaction as the message delivered. Read. She saw it instantly. I put the car in drive, intending to finally head north. I made it 2 blocks before my phone exploded. It was not a call. It was the family group chat. The Coleman clan. 5 members. Mallory, screenshot. She had posted a screenshot of my text, the one Tessa had helped me draft, but she had cropped it. She cut off the part where I said, I informed you I was unavailable. All that was visible was, I did not agree to babysit. I am proceeding with my own plans. Mallory, I honestly do not know what to say. I am sitting here in tears. We have a family emergency. Brent's job is on the line, and this is the response I get? Proceeding with my own plans. I guess a vacation is more important than ensuring your niece and nephew are safe. Mallory. Dad. Mom, I don't want to involve you guys, but I don't know what to do. The sitter canceled and Eleanor is literally driving away. My stomach churned. She was weaponizing the audience. Then, a new message popped up. Dad. Eleanor, what is going on? I am reading this, and I am very disappointed. Since when do we treat family like a business transaction? Dad. Your sister asked for one night. You have 365 days in a year to take a trip. This is about duty. We all make sacrifices. I drove 3 hours in a snowstorm to pick you up from college when you were 19. I didn't say I had plans. The reference to the snowstorm was a classic hit. He had brought that up at every Thanksgiving for 14 years. Mallory. Image. It was a photo of the kids again, this time eating dinner. Lila looked messy and tired. Mallory. I haven't even told them yet. Lila made a bracelet for Auntie Elle. It breaks my heart. I pulled over again. I couldn't drive like this. My hands were shaking too hard. The injustice of it was suffocating. They were rewriting reality in real time. And because there were 3 of them and 1 of me, their version was winning. I wanted to scream into the chat. I wanted to type out every time I had loaned Mallory money, every time I had babysat for free, every time I had listened to Mom complain about Dad. Don't engage, Tessa had said. But then my phone buzzed with something different. An email notification. From Marion Holt, Redwood Pike Solutions. Subject, availability/weekend inquiry. I stared at the subject line. Marion was my boss. She was a no-nonsense woman who respected boundaries, which made this email terrifying. I opened it. Eleanor, Sorry to bother you on a Friday evening. I know you are off, but I received a strange call on the main office line just now. A woman claiming to be your cousin called asking for your schedule this weekend. She said there was a family obligation you might have forgotten and wanted to know if we had called you in for emergency work. I told her we do not share employee schedules and that you were not working this weekend, but she seemed very insistent that you were confused about your availability. I just wanted to flag this for you. Is everything okay? The blood drained from my face. Mallory, or maybe Mom, had called my job. They had called my place of employment to check my alibi. They were trying to catch me in a lie, to see if I was actually working, or they were trying to sabotage my professional reputation by making me look like an incompetent flake who forgot family obligations. Confused about her availability, that was a calculated strike. In project management, clarity is everything. If my family was calling my boss telling her I was confused, it planted a seed of doubt about my stability. This was no longer a family squabble. This was war. I didn't reply to the email. I called Marion immediately. Eleanor? Marion answered on the second ring. Everything all right? Marion, I am so sorry you received that call, I said. I kept my voice steady, fighting the tremor in my throat. That was a family member who is currently upset that I established a personal boundary regarding my time off. I am not confused, and there is no emergency. I am incredibly embarrassed that they reached out to the office. Okay, Marion said, her tone softening but still professional. Look, it was weird. Eleanor, she sounded frantic. I just wanted to make sure you weren't in trouble. I am safe, I said, but I need to ask a favor. If anyone calls again, my sister Mallory, my mother Gail, or anyone else, please do not confirm my location, my schedule, or my contact info. This is a harassment situation. Using the word harassment felt heavy, but I had to do it. I had to label it correctly before it destroyed my career. Understood, Marion said, her voice sharpening into manager mode. I will put a note in your file for the receptionist and HR. No info given out. Take care of yourself. Eleanor. See you Tuesday. Thank you. Marion. I hung up and let out a scream that scraped my throat raw. They had crossed the line, the sacred line between the mess of home and the order of work. Mallory didn't care if she burned down my career as long as she got what she wanted. I looked at the group chat again. Dad was typing. I didn't care what he was typing. I was done with the chat. I opened my text to block Mallory, just for the night, so I could drive in peace. But before I could, a message came through from Brent. Mallory's husband. It was a private text, not in the group chat. Brent. I am so sorry. Brent. I know she's being crazy. I know this isn't your problem. But please, I am begging you, just do it this once. It will stop the fighting. I can't take the fighting anymore. If she doesn't go to this thing, she is going to explode. I don't know what will happen. I stared at the words. I don't know what will happen. Brent was a quiet man, a generic, nice guy who liked golf and craft beer. He was usually the one rolling his eyes at Mallory's dramatics, the conspiratorial ally in the background. But this text was different. It was fearful. It will stop the fighting. It implied the fighting was already happening, and that it was bad. I thought about the non-refundable fee, the intern Sarah who was terrified of a liability waiver, the desperation. If I went to Maine now, I would be right. I would be justified. I would be safe. But something in Brent's text made the hair on my arms stand up. She is going to explode. I wasn't going to babysit. I held firm on that. But I couldn't just leave a grenade in the living room with my niece and nephew and drive 4 hours away. I needed to look them in the eye. I needed to drop off the list of sitters I had printed out, the tangible proof that I had offered a solution, and I needed to tell Mallory to her face that calling my boss was an act of war. I needed to end this, not over the phone, but in reality. I turned the car around. I wasn't going to the highway. I was going to Mallory's house in the suburbs. The drive took 20 minutes. It started to rain harder. A cold, sleeting rain that blurred the streetlights. When I pulled into Mallory's driveway, the house was blazing with light. Every window was illuminated, as if they were expecting a party. I grabbed the folder with the sitter information. I didn't take my suitcase. I wasn't staying. I walked up the front path. I could hear the muffled sound of the TV inside. I rang the doorbell. It took a long time for someone to answer. Finally, the door opened. Mallory stood there. She was fully dressed in a bathrobe and a towel turban, her face masked in some kind of green clay skincare treatment. She looked like a caricature of leisure, which was jarring considering the crisis she claimed to be in. When she saw me, her eyes, the only part of her face not covered in green mud, widened. Then, she smiled. It was a terrifying expression, cracking the drying clay. "I knew it," she said. She didn't move to let me in. She stood in the doorway, blocking the view of the hall. "I told Brent," I said. "She is halfway to Maine, but she will turn around. You are a good sister. Eleanor." "I am not here to babysit," I said. I held out the folder. "I am here to give you this list of emergency sitters, and I am here to tell you that you called my boss." Mallory didn't take the folder. She crossed her arms. "I didn't call your boss. Mom did. She was worried." "You put her up to it," I said. "And you gave my number to that intern, Sarah. You lied to her." "I optimized the situation," Mallory said. "And now you are here, so it worked." "It didn't work," I said. Stepping closer, the rain was dripping off my hood. "I am not staying. Mallory, I am giving you this list, and then I am leaving. And if you ever contact my workplace again, I will file a harassment complaint. I am serious." "You wouldn't," she scoffed. "You are obsessed with your career. You wouldn't drag your dirty laundry into HR." From inside the house, I heard Theo's voice. He sounded high-pitched, excited. "Dad, Dad, are we going to the big hotel? Is Mom going to do her speech now?" I froze. "The big hotel?" I asked. "Mom's speech?" Mallory shifted. For the first time, she looked uneasy. She tried to close the door slightly, wedging her shoulder against the frame. "He's confused," she said quickly. "He thinks the gala is like a vacation. He's 7. He said, 'Mom's speech,'" I pressed. "You told me this was for Brent's work. Why would you be giving a speech at Brent's networking gala?" "I am not," she snapped. I am making a toast. To the donors. It is a courtesy." "To the Brightbrook donors," I said. "The charity you have never mentioned before today. Why are you interrogating me?" Mallory hissed. "Are you coming in or not? The kids are waiting for you. Lila has her pajamas on. She is watching the door." "I am not coming in," I said. I thrust the folder into her chest. She had to grab it or let it fall to the wet porch. She grabbed it. "Here are 3 numbers. They are available tonight. Call them." I turned around. My heart was pounding in my ears. The discrepancy of the speech, the desperately text from Brent, the big hotel. It was a puzzle I didn't want to solve, but the pieces were jagged and sharp. "Eleanor!" Mallory shouted. I kept walking toward my car. "If you get in that car," she called out, her voice dropping low, projecting with a venomous clarity that cut through the rain. "If you leave town, don't expect to come back to the same family." I stopped at the driver's side door. I looked back at her. She was a green-faced gargoyle standing in the halo of the porch light, clutching a folder of solutions she refused to use. "That is the point, Mallory," I said to myself. I didn't say it to her. I got in the car. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw the curtain in the living room window twitch. Brent was standing there, looking out. He looked pale. Even from this distance, he wasn't looking at me with anger. He was looking at me with envy. I drove away. Mallory's threat echoed in my mind. Don't expect to come back to the same family. She thought she was threatening me with exile. But as the adrenaline faded and the cold reality of her manipulation settled in, I realized she wasn't talking about love or holidays or Sunday dinners. She was talking about ownership. I had broken the chain of command, and tyrants do not forgive defectors. I turned onto the on-ramp for I-95 North. The sign for Maine glowed green in the headlights. I was going, but I knew, with a sick certainty in my gut, that the war wasn't back at the house. The war was coming with me. The drive north was a blur of black asphalt and red taillights. By the time I crossed the state line into Maine, the rain had stopped, replaced by a heavy salt-laden fog that clung to the windshield. I had turned off the radio hours ago. The only soundtrack was the hum of the tires and the relentless pinging of my phone, which I had tossed onto the passenger seat like a venomous snake. I arrived at the Salty Plover Inn in Kestrel Cove just after 1 a.m. It was a converted sea captain's house, white-clappered, glowing ghostly in the mist. Perched on a bluff overlooking the Atlantic, under normal circumstances, this arrival would have been a moment of profound release. I would have stepped out of the car, inhaled the brine, and felt the knot in my shoulders loosen. Instead, I sat in the idling car and stared at my phone. The screen was lit up with notifications, 32 unread messages. They weren't just from Mallory. They were from my mother, my father, and then, shockingly, my cousin Bethany. I hadn't spoken to Bethany in 3 years, not since a disagreement over a wedding invitation. Yet there her name was, flashing on my screen. I picked up the phone, my thumb hovering over the glass. I knew I shouldn't look. I knew Tessa had told me to disconnect. But the pull of the family narrative is a gravity well. It takes immense escape velocity to break free, and I wasn't there yet. I opened Bethany's text. Bethany. Hey, Elle. Hearing some crazy stuff from Aunt Gail about you leaving Mallory high and dry for a big charity event? Not cool. You know how hard she tries. Just thought you should know people are talking. People were talking. The tribunal had convened, and I had been tried and convicted in absentia while I was driving on I-95. I didn't reply. I grabbed my suitcase, locked the car, and checked in. The night clerk was a sleepy teenager who barely looked up as he handed me a physical brass key. I walked up the creaking stairs to room 4, unlocked the door, and collapsed onto the bed. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't change my clothes. I just lay there in the dark, listening to the distant crash of the waves, feeling like a fugitive in my own life. The next morning, the sun broke through the fog with a brilliance that felt almost insulting. I woke up with a headache that sat behind my eyes like a bruised fruit. I forced myself to get up, shower, and put on clean clothes. I was in Maine. I was on vacation. I was going to drink coffee and look at the ocean, even if it killed me. I walked down to the rocky beach below the inn. The air was crisp, smelling of seaweed and cold water. It was beautiful. For a fleeting second, the beauty pierced through the anxiety. I took my phone out, strictly for the camera, I told myself, and snapped a photo of the waves crashing against a jagged granite outcrop. It was a moody, serene shot, without thinking. I posted it to my private social media account. I had locked this account down years ago. Only about 50 people followed me, mostly college friends and a few coworkers. Mallory followed me, of course, but she rarely engaged with my posts unless it was to criticize my hair or my apartment decor. I captioned it, "Morning light, finally breathing." I put the phone in my pocket and walked along the shoreline for 20 minutes, trying to practice the mindfulness techniques my therapist had taught me. Observe the stones, hear the gulls, be present. When I pulled my phone out again to check the time, I saw the notification. Mallory Coleman commented, "Must be nice abandoning everyone to go look at rocks. Hope the view is worth destroying your family for." My stomach dropped. It was so public, even on a private account. 50 people could see it. My college roommate, my old boss, my friends. She wasn't just venting. She was tagging me with a scarlet letter. Then, a second comment. This one from my mother. "Mallory is right. We are very disappointed in your choices. Eleanor." I felt a flush of heat rise up my neck. They were hunting me. They were following me into my digital sanctuary and shitting on the floor. I called Tessa. "She commented on my photo," I said the moment she answered. "Delete the post," Tessa said immediately. Her voice was crisp, efficient. "Don't engage in the comments. Delete the post, block them from seeing your stories, and restrict their access. We talked about this. L. You are feeding the beast. I just wanted to post a picture, I said, my voice cracking. I just wanted to be normal. You are normal, Tessa said firmly. They are not. Listen to me. You need to send one final statement, a blast radius text to the group chat. Then you need to go dark, real dark. No posting, no reading. What do I say? Open your notes app, Tessa commanded. I sat down on a piece of driftwood, the cold seeping through my jeans. I typed as she dictated. To the family. I am seeing the messages and comments. I want to be clear. I did not agree to babysit this weekend. I informed Mallory repeatedly that I had a non-refundable trip planned. I am not responsible for last-minute arrangements made without my consent. I will not be harassed or shamed for having a life of my own. I am taking this time to rest. I will not be responding to further messages until I return. It sounds cold, I said, reading it back. It sounds like a boundary, Tessa corrected. Send it, then mute the chat. I took a deep breath. My thumb shook. I hit send. Immediately. The 3 dots appeared. Someone was typing. I didn't wait to see who it was. I muted the conversation. Then I went into my settings and muted Mallory, Mom, Dad, and even Bethany. I sat there for a long time, staring at the ocean. I felt lighter, but also terrified. I had just erected a wall that I might never be able to tear down. I walked back up to the inn, intending to get breakfast. As I entered the lobby, my phone buzzed with an email notification. I glanced at it, expecting a work email I had forgotten to filter. It was from Harbor Point Community Credit Union. Subject, urgent, past due balance on account ending in 4492. I frowned. I didn't bank with Harbor Point Community Credit Union. I had an account there years ago, fresh out of college, but I had closed it when I moved to a bigger bank. I opened the email, assuming it was a phishing scam. Dear Eleanor Coleman, this is a reminder that your joint savings line of credit is past due in the amount of $420. Please remit payment immediately to avoid reporting to credit bureaus. Joint savings line of credit? I walked into the inn's small library, which was empty, and sat in a leather wingback chair. I pulled out my wallet and found my debit card for my actual bank. The numbers didn't match. I called the number at the bottom of the email. After verifying it on Google to make sure it was the real bank, it was Harbor Point Community Credit Union. This is David, a cheerful voice answered. Hi, David, I said. I just received a past due notice for an account I didn't know I had. My name is Eleanor Coleman. One moment. Ms. Coleman, let me pull you up. I heard the clicking of keys. Okay, yes, I see the account here. A joint savings account with overdraft protection. The primary holder is Mallory Coleman, and you are listed as the joint owner. The room seemed to tilt slightly to the left. When was this account opened? I asked. My voice sounded very far away. Let's see. Looks like it was opened 3 years ago, in June. 3 years ago. And I am a signer on this account? Yes, ma'am. We have your signature on file. Can you send me a copy of that signature card? I asked. And the transaction history? I can email those to the address on file, David said. Is there a problem? I didn't sign anything, I said. I didn't open this account. David's cheerful tone evaporated, replaced by a cautious, procedural stiffness. I see. If you are alleging fraud, we will need to freeze the account immediately and open an investigation. That will lock out both account holders. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I said. Freeze it. I hung up. I felt sick. Not the nervous nausea of the night before, but a heavy leaden dread. $420 was not a life-ruining amount, but it was a past due amount, and it was on an account I didn't know existed. I sat there, my mind racing backward through time. 3 years ago. June. Where was I? I had been staying at my parents' house for a week while my apartment was being painted. Mallory had been there a lot. She was refinancing her house, or so she said. She had been stressed, chaotic, drowning in paperwork. I remembered a specific afternoon at the kitchen table. Mallory had a stack of papers. She had been complaining about the bank needing a witness or a secondary reference for some minor compliance thing. Memory. Elle, you are a lifesaver, Mallory had said. Sliding a paper across the table, her finger was pressing down on a yellow highlighted line. Just scratch your name here so I can get this notary off my back. It is just verifying I am a real person. What is it? I had asked. Tired from work, barely looking. Just standard boring banking stuff, she had said, laughing. I will handle the documents. You just sign where I highlighted. And I had signed. I had signed because she was my sister. I had signed because I was exhausted. I had signed because the idea that my sister would trick me into co-signing a line of credit was so absurd, so villainous, that it hadn't even registered as a possibility. My phone chimed. The email from David at the credit union had arrived. I opened the attachment. There it was, a signature card. My signature was there. It looked a little shaky, a little rushed, but it was mine, or a very good tracing of it, and next to it, the box checked was not reference. It was joint owner with right of survivorship. I scrolled down to the transaction history. It wasn't a savings account. It was a churning pit of money transfers, cash deposits, immediate withdrawals, transfers from Venmo, transfers out to Northgate events, overdraft fees, reversal fees. It looked like money laundering, or at the very least, a desperate shell game to keep cash moving before checks bounced. I realized then that the non-refundable gala fee wasn't the issue. The issue was that Mallory was broke, and she had been using my name as a life raft for 3 years. I stood up, needing to pace. I walked out of the library and onto the inn's wraparound porch. The fog was lifting, revealing a steel-gray ocean that looked cold and indifferent. My phone buzzed again. A text. Not Mallory. Brent. Brent. Elle, please tell me you are not really gone. Brent. The gala isn't just a party. She is supposed to meet a guy there. A donor. He is bringing a check. I stared at the screen. Eleanor. What donor? Brent? Brent. Some guy connected to Brightbrook. She promised him she would be there to accept the donation personally. She says if she doesn't get that check into the account by Monday, things are going to collapse. I don't know what she means, but she is terrified. She needs you to watch the kids so she can fix this. Fix this. The pieces clicked together with a sickening snap. The desperation, the intern who was scared of a liability waiver, the joint account with transfers to Northgate events. Mallory wasn't just short on cash. She was moving money around that didn't belong to her. She was robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I was Peter. Rough morning? I jumped. I turned to see a man sitting in one of the rocking chairs further down the porch. I hadn't noticed him. He was older, perhaps in his late 60s. With a neatly trimmed white beard and a thick wool cardigan, he had a book on his lap, but he was looking at me with kind, intelligent eyes. I am sorry, I said, wiping my face, realizing I had been crying. I didn't know anyone was out here. I have been here since breakfast, he said. He had a soft, gravelly voice. The acoustics on this porch are excellent. Or terrible, depending on how much privacy you thought you had. I flushed. You heard my call. I heard enough, he said. He closed his book. I am Rowan Pierce. Eleanor, I said. Eleanor, he repeated. I spent 40 years as a forensic accountant for the state of Connecticut. I have heard a lot of phone calls like that, usually right before everything hits the fan. I looked at him. He didn't look judgmental. He looked like a man who had seen human nature in spreadsheets and found it wanting. You think it sounds bad? I asked. I think past due on a secret account is usually the tip of the iceberg, Rowan said. And I think when people talk about fixing things with a specific check that has to be deposited by Monday, they are playing the float. Playing the float? Using money you don't have to cover a debt you can't pay. Hoping the new money arrives before the old money clears, Rowan explained. It is a classic sign of cash flow panic. It is not about childcare, Eleanor. It never is. I shivered. My brother-in-law said she needs a donor check to fix things. Rowan nodded slowly. Then she is likely covering a shortfall, maybe in the charity's funds? If she has access. She is a consultant, I said. Or a volunteer. I don't even know anymore. Rowan looked out at the ocean. If you go back there, Eleanor, you become part of the swirl. You become the distraction she needs to pull the next lever. The best thing you can do for yourself is stay exactly where you are and pull your own records. I froze the account, I said. Good, Rowan said. Now freeze the rest. Check your credit report. Check your retirement accounts. If she had your signature for one, she could have it for others. He stood up, tucking his book under his arm. Enjoy the view. Eleanor, the truth will still be there on Monday. It is usually worse by then, but at least you will be rested. He walked back inside, leaving me alone with the cold wind and the terrifying clarity of his words. I didn't go to the beach. I didn't read my book. I went back to my room and turned it into a war room. I opened my laptop, the one I had sworn not to use. I logged into the 3 major credit bureaus. I paid the fees for expedited reports. I sat there for 6 hours. I found 2 more inquiries I didn't recognize. One for a store credit card at a high-end furniture retailer. One for a small personal loan that had been denied. I called my main bank and added a verbal password to my accounts. I called my HR department at Redwood and Pike and reiterated the no-contact order, following it up with a formal email attaching the harassment log Tessa had told me to keep. I felt like I was boarding up a house before a hurricane. Every window, every door. I was methodical. I was cold. I was functioning on pure adrenaline. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I had a pile of notes. The picture was grim. Mallory wasn't just messy. She was financially insolvent and using the family as a resource pool, and my parents, with their constant pressure to help her, were likely enabling it, perhaps unknowingly, perhaps not. I ordered room service, a lobster roll I barely tasted, and sat by the window as the sun went down. The silence in the room was heavy. I had done the adult thing. I had protected myself, but I felt a profound loneliness. I was severing the limb to save the body, but it was still my limb. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I looked at it. It wasn't a text. It was a voicemail notification. I hadn't heard it ring. I must have had the volume down. It was from Mallory. I hesitated. Tessa would say delete it. Rowan would say it was manipulation. But I had to know. I pressed play and held the phone to my ear. Eleanor. Mallory's voice was wet, thick with tears. She was sobbing. Eleanor, please pick up. I know you are mad. I know I screwed up. But you have to help me. There was a pause, filled with jagged breathing. They are coming to the house, she whispered. They said they are coming to the house to talk to Brent. I can't let them talk to Brent. Eleanor, please, I am scared. The message ended. I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear. They are coming to the house. Who was they? The bank? The police? The donors? My heart hammered against my ribs. I had an image of men in suits, or police officers, banging on Mallory's front door while Theo and Lila cowered in the living room. I reached for my keys. I had to go back. Then, I stopped. I replayed the message. Eleanor, please pick up. I closed my eyes and listened not to the words, but to the sound, the background. Behind Mallory's sobbing, there was a noise, a distinct, rhythmic ding, and then a low hum of chatter, and the swoosh of automatic doors opening and closing. Ding. It sounded like an elevator or a hotel lobby. If she was at home, terrified that they were coming to the house, why did it sound like she was standing in a Marriott? I listened again. I heard a faint voice in the background say, "Valet is out front, ma'am." She wasn't at home. She wasn't cowering with the children. She was out. She was at the gala, or at a hotel. She was performing. The realization washed over me like ice water. She was calling me. sobbing about an invasion of her home. While she was standing in a lobby waiting for her car, she was trying to panic me into driving home, into rushing in to save the kids from a threat that she was currently miles away from. I lowered the phone. I wasn't going back. Not tonight. But I wasn't safe, either. If she was this desperate enough to stage a home invasion panic call from a hotel lobby, then the walls were closing in fast. I stood up and walked to the door, checking the deadbolt. I slid the chain lock into place. I texted Tessa. Eleanor. She just faked an emergency call. I think she is about to crash. I am staying in Maine, but I need a lawyer for Monday morning. Not for her, for me. I turned off the lights and sat in the dark, watching the lighthouse beam sweep across the water. It was a warning light. Keep away. Rocks ahead. I finally understood. I wasn't the lighthouse. I was the ship, and I had to steer clear of the wreck before it pulled me under. I left Kestrel Cove before the sun was fully up. The drive back to Massachusetts was not a retreat. It was an extraction. I had gone to Maine to rest, but I was returning to survive. The fog that had blanketed the coast seemed to follow me down the highway, a physical manifestation of the dread pooling in my stomach. I was done reacting. I was done answering frantic texts. I was done being the safety net that caught everyone else while I plummeted. I arrived in Harbor Point at 9 a.m. on Monday. I did not go to my apartment. I did not go to work. I drove straight to the main branch of the Harbor Point Community Credit Union. The lobby was quiet, smelling of floor wax and stale coffee. I sat across from a loan officer named Mrs. Higgins, a woman with kind eyes and a ruthlessly efficient manner. When I requested the original documentation for the account ending in 4492, she disappeared into the back for 10 minutes. When she returned, she placed a photocopy on the desk. Here is the signature card. Ms. Coleman, she said. I looked at it. My name was signed on the secondary line. The loops of the E and the L were sweeping and dramatic, mimicking the way I signed birthday cards. But the slant was wrong. It leaned too far to the right, and the pressure was heavy, decisive. And the primary? I asked, though I already knew. Coleman, Mrs. Higgins said. Mallory Coleman. I did not sign this, I said. My voice was flat, devoid of the panic I felt. That is a forgery, Mrs. Higgins nodded slowly. I see. If you wish to contest this, we need to file a fraud affidavit. It will freeze the account immediately. It will also trigger a criminal referral because the amount involved, over the lifetime of the account, exceeds $5,000 in turnover. Do it, I said. Signing the affidavit felt like signing a warrant for my own execution. I was criminalizing my sister. I was turning a family secret into a state record. But as the pen scratched against the paper, I remembered the non-refundable invoice. I remembered the intern Sarah. I remembered the text from Brent. This wasn't just about a signature. It was about stopping a hemorrhage before it killed us both. I walked out of the bank and called Tessa. I did it, I said. I froze the account. Good, Tessa said. Now come to the precinct. I am already here. We are filing the police report. Tessa, is that necessary? The bank is investigating. The bank protects the bank, Tessa said sharply. The police report protects you. If she has opened other accounts, or if she takes out loans in your name. You need a paper trail proving you reported the identity theft the moment you found it. Otherwise, you are liable. You are not doing this to arrest her. Eleanor, you are doing this to inoculate yourself. Meeting Tessa at the precinct was surreal. The fluorescent lights were humming. I gave my statement to a bored officer who typed with 2 fingers. I handed over the copies from the bank. When he handed me the small slip of paper with the case number on it, I felt like I was going to vomit. It is real now, I whispered to Tessa in the parking lot. It was real 3 years ago when she forged your name, Tessa said, squeezing my arm. You just turned on the lights. I had one more stop. I needed to look her in the eye. I texted Mallory, meet me at Juniper Street Cafe in 30 minutes. If you are not there, I am coming to the house with the police case number. She didn't reply, but I knew she would be there. I sat at a corner table in the cafe, watching the door. Juniper Street was neutral ground, a place where we used to get brunch in our 20s. Before Brent, before the kids, before the rot set in. Mallory arrived 15 minutes late. She was wearing a beige trench coat and oversized sunglasses, looking every inch the suburban martyr. She didn't look at the menu. She sat down, took off her glasses, and gave me a look of profound exhaustion. "I hope you are happy," she said. "I had to leave work early. Brent is a mess. The kids are confused. You really blew this whole weekend up. Eleanor." She was waiting for me to apologize. She was waiting for the younger sister who desperate sought approval to crumble. I didn't speak. I reached into my bag and pulled out the photocopy of the signature card. I slid it across the wooden table. "What is this?" she asked, glancing at it. "It is the account you opened 3 years ago," I said. "The one where you practiced my signature until you got it close enough to fool a bank teller." Mallory's face changed. The exhaustion vanished, replaced by a flash of genuine fear. Her eyes darted to the door, then back to me, but the fear lasted only a second. Then, anger took over. "You went to the bank?" she hissed. "I went to the bank," I said. "And the police." "The police?" Mallory laughed. A sharp, brittle sound that turned heads at the nearby tables. "Oh my God, you are insane. You called the police on your own sister over a backup account?" "It is not a backup account," I said. "It is fraud. You have been moving money through it for years. Why, Mallory?" "For emergencies," she insisted, leaning forward, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "For the family. You have no idea what it costs to live our life. Eleanor, the mortgage, the private school, the medical bills. I opened that account as a safety net. I put your name on it because you are single. You have good credit. And I knew you would want to help if things got bad." "I would want to help if you asked," I said. "Stealing my identity is not asking." "I was protecting you," she said. "I didn't want to burden you with our problems. I handled it. I always handle it. And this is how you repay me? By treating me like a criminal?" "You are gaslighting me," I said calmly. "You are trying to make me feel guilty for your crime. It is not going to work anymore." "Family comes first," she spat. "That used to mean something to you." "Honesty comes first," I said. The bell above the cafe door jingled. We both looked up. Brent walked in. He looked wrecked. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes were red-rimmed. And he walked with the heavy, shuffling gait of a man who had not slept in days. He spotted us and walked over, pulling a chair from a nearby table without asking. "Brent," Mallory said, her voice rising in panic. "What are you doing here? I told you I was handling this." "You are not handling anything," Brent said. His voice was dull, defeated. He looked at me. "I am sorry. Brent, do not talk to her," Mallory ordered. "She went to the police." "Good," Brent said. Mallory froze. "What did you say?" she whispered. "I said good," Brent repeated. He put his head in his hands. "I can't do it anymore. Mal, I can't keep lying to everyone." He looked up at me. "The gala wasn't a gala. I mean, there was a gala, but that is not why she needed you to babysit, and the fee wasn't for tickets." "Brent!" Mallory shrieked. She reached out and grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. He shook her off. "The money was for Northgate Event Partners. It is a vendor. Mallory hired them for a Brightbrook event 6 months ago. She promised them a deposit she didn't have. They have been threatening to sue her and expose the debt to the Brightbrook board. The non-refundable fee was a payment plan. She needed to meet the guy from Northgate in person to hand over a cashier's check so he wouldn't file a lien." I stared at my sister. The gala was a drop. The donor was a debt collector. "And the money?" I asked. "Where was the money coming from?" "She was moving it," Brent said. "From the joint account, from our savings, from credit cards. She has been cycling debt for 2 years. "Shut up." Mallory stood up, her chair screeching against the floor. You are weak. Brent, I did this for us. I did this to maintain our lifestyle. You like the car, don't you? You like the club membership? I hate the club membership, Brent said quietly. We are broke. Mallory, we have been broke for a year. Mallory looked at him with pure loathing. Then she looked at me. You did this, she said to me. You dug around where you didn't belong. If you had just babysat the kids, I could have fixed it. I had a plan. Your plan was to use me, I said. My plan was to survive, she shouted. People were staring openly now. The barista was reaching for a phone. I am leaving, Mallory said. She grabbed her bag. Fix this. Eleanor, call the police and tell them it was a mistake. If you don't, I swear to God, you will never see Theo and Lila again. She stormed out. I sat there with Brent in the silence she left behind. Is she serious? I asked. About the kids? She uses them as leverage, Brent said. She always has. I need to talk to them, I said. I need them to know I am not abandoning them. Call them, Brent said. He pulled out his phone and dialed the home line. My mom is watching them. Just keep it light. Don't let them know the world is burning. He handed me the phone. Hello? Theo's voice was small. Hey, buddy, I said, forcing warmth into my voice. It is Auntie Elle. Auntie Elle. He sounded relieved. Mom said you went away forever. My heart broke. No, sweetie, Mom was just confused. I am right here in town. I just had to take care of some boring work stuff. I love you so much. Okay? And I love Lila. I'm going to see you guys really soon. Are you coming for dinner? He asked. Not tonight, I said. But soon. You be good for Grandma. Okay? Draw me a picture of a dinosaur. Okay, he said. Bye, Auntie Elle. I handed the phone back to Brent. My hand was shaking. I filed a fraud report, I told him. The accounts are frozen. The house of cards is coming down. Brent. It needs to, he said. He stood up. I have to go home. I have to make sure she doesn't do anything stupid. He left me alone in the cafe. I drove to my apartment. I felt hollowed out. I wanted to sleep for a week, but the phone rang. It was my mother. I didn't answer. She called again. Then my father called. I let it go to voicemail. 10 minutes later, I listened to the message. It was my father's voice, trembling with rage. Eleanor, Mallory just told us what you did. You called the police? On your sister? Over a misunderstanding about a bank account? We are a family. We handle things inside the house. You have humiliated us. You are destroying this family because you are too selfish to share your success. Do not come over. Do not call us until you are ready to drop this nonsense and apologize. I sat on my couch, the phone in my hand. They didn't care about the forgery. They didn't care about the lies. They cared that I had broken the code of silence. They preferred the quiet lie to the messy truth. I didn't call back. I went to sleep early, but I didn't sleep well. I dreamed of drowning in a sea of paper, with Mallory standing on a boat, watching me go under. Tuesday morning, I went to work. I needed the routine. I needed the clean, logical world of project management. I was at my desk at 8. At 8:30, Marion Holt appeared in my doorway. She didn't look friendly. Eleanor, can you come to my office? And bring your laptop. My stomach tightened. Bring your laptop was corporate code for suspension. I walked into her office. The HR director, a man named Gary, was sitting there. Close the door, Marion said. I sat down. Eleanor, Gary began, looking at a file. We received a formal complaint late last night regarding your conduct. It alleges that you are unstable, that you have been harassing a family member during work hours and using company resources to intimidate them. Let me guess, I said. The complaint uses the words selfish, erratic, and claims I am abandoning my obligations. Gary blinked. It mentions erratic behavior. Yes, and it claims you threatened a nursing mother. Mallory's children are 5 and 7, I said. She is not a nursing mother. The complaint was anonymous, Marion said, but it was sent to the ethics hotline. We have to investigate. Eleanor. It paints a picture of someone who is mentally compromising the safety of the workplace. I opened my bag. I pulled out the folder Tessa had told me to make. This is a police report filed yesterday regarding identity theft and fraud committed against me by my sister. Mallory Coleman, I said, placing the document on Marion's desk. This is a log of 37 harassing text messages and calls received from her and my parents between Friday and Sunday. This is a copy of the cease and desist text I sent her. I looked at Gary. The complaint you received is a retaliation tactic. My sister is currently under investigation for financial fraud. She is attempting to discredit me to leverage me into dropping the charges. I am the victim here, not the aggressor. Marion picked up the police report. She read the case number. She looked at the fraud affidavit. Jesus, she whispered. I am requesting that the company block her email address and phone number, I said, and I am formally requesting that this anonymous complaint be flagged as malicious retaliation. I am stable, I am reliable, and I am doing my job. I am simply refusing to be a victim of domestic financial abuse. Gary looked at Marion. Marion looked at me. Okay, Marion said. She handed the report back to me. We will flag the complaint, and I will have IT block external communications from her known addresses. I am sorry. Eleanor. Thank you, I said. I walked back to my desk. My hands were steady. I had fought back, and I had won. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like I was systematically dismantling my life to remove the cancer. I had one more thing to check. Brent had mentioned the events committee and Brightbrook. Mallory had always claimed she was a lead volunteer or a donor liaison. I logged into the public charity registry database. I pulled the Form 990 filings for the Brightbrook Children's Fund for the last 2 fiscal years. I scrolled through the list of officers and key employees. There it was, Mallory Coleman. She wasn't listed as a volunteer. Title: Program Consultant. Compensation: $48,000. She was on the payroll. She had been drawing a salary for 2 years, a salary she never told the family about. If she was getting paid $50,000 a year, plus Brent's income, why did she need to steal from me? Why did she need to cycle debt? Then I looked at the footnotes. Consulting fees paid to Northgate Event Partners, $85,000. Northgate, the vendor Brent mentioned. I did a search for Northgate Event Partners. It was a generic LLC. I pulled the state business registration. Registered agent: Mallory Coleman. Principal address: 42 Maple Drive. 42 Maple Drive was my parents' house. Mallory wasn't just paying a vendor. Mallory was the vendor. She was the program consultant for the charity, and she was hiring her own shell company to run events, paying herself double. And the debt Brent was terrified of? The non-refundable fee? It wasn't a fee. It was likely a kickback she had promised to someone else involved in the scheme, or she had embezzled the money and couldn't produce the services Northgate was supposed to provide. The gala wasn't a party. It was a deadline. She wasn't just a messy spender. My sister was a white-collar criminal, and by putting my name on that joint account, she had made me an accessory to embezzlement. I stared at the screen, the blue light reflecting in my eyes. "Oh, Mal," I whispered. "What have you done?" The blue light of my laptop screen was the only thing illuminating my living room. It was 2 a.m. on Wednesday, and I was no longer an exhausted project manager trying to take a vacation. I was an archivist of my own family's corruption. I had the Secretary of State's business entity search open in one tab, and the IRS tax-exempt organization search in another. The discovery that Northgate Event Partners was registered to my parents' address, 42 Maple Drive, sat in my stomach like a stone. It changed everything. It meant that the fraud wasn't just existing in the ether. It was physically anchored to the house where I grew up. I printed the registration documents. Then I pulled the board list for the Brightbrook Children's Fund. I expected to see strangers. Instead, I saw a list of local heavyweights. There was the town's most successful real estate developer, there was the vice principal of the high school, and there, listed as board treasurer, was Lawrence Cobb. I knew Lawrence Cobb. He was a retired naval officer who ran the local Rotary Club. My father worshipped him. Dad had a Cobb for City Council sign on his lawn 3 years ago. The idea that Mallory was embezzling money right under the nose of a man my father considered a hero was terrifying. It meant that when this exploded, it wouldn't just be a private shame, it would be a public scandal that would incinerate my parents' social standing. I needed to know how deep the rot went before I started setting fires. I didn't go to the police again. Not yet. I needed context. I saw on the Brightbrook website that they were hosting a community partners mixer that very evening at the Harbor Point Maritime Center. It was open to the public, a meet and greet for potential donors. I went to work, kept my head down, and ignored the icy stares from the HR director who was still processing my harassment claim. At 5 o'clock, I drove to the Maritime Center. I didn't dress up. I wore my work clothes, a charcoal blazer and trousers, and tried to look like just another tired professional looking for a tax write-off. The room was filled with people holding plastic cups of white wine. I stood near the edge of the room, near a display of photos showing happy children in Brightbrook t-shirts. I scanned the crowd for Mallory. She wasn't there. That made sense. If she was hiding from a vendor, she would be lying low. I drifted toward a group of 3 people standing near the cheese table. They were wearing name tags that identified them as Volunteer Committee. I am just saying, a woman with short gray hair was whispering. It is weird that the audit is taking this long. Usually, Henderson does it in a week. Henderson isn't doing it this year, a younger man replied, dipping a cracker into hummus. They switched firms. Apparently, the board wanted a fresh set of eyes. Something about allocation discrepancies in the event budget. Well, I heard Cynthia Rourke is on the warpath, the woman said. She asked for the invoices from the spring gala and couldn't find half of them. My heart hammered against my ribs. Allocation discrepancies, missing invoices. They were talking about Mallory. They didn't know it yet. They probably just thought it was incompetence, but they were circling the drain of her scheme. I left the mixer after 20 minutes. I had heard enough. The ice was cracking. I sat in my car in the parking lot and called Rowan Pierce. I had kept his number from the business card he gave me at the inn. Eleanor. His voice was a gravelly comfort. I assumed you would be halfway to a subpoena by now. I am at a charity mixer, I said. I found out my sister is listed as a paid consultant for the nonprofit, and she is also the registered agent for the vendor she pays for events, and the vendor is registered at my parents' house. Rowan let out a low whistle. The classic self-dealing loop. She bills the charity for event coordination through her shell company, approves the invoice as the consultant, and cuts herself a check. It is clumsy. Eleanor, that is prison time clumsy. I heard volunteers talking about an audit, I said, and missing invoices. The auditors will find the shell company in about 10 minutes, Rowan said. If the vendor address matches the employee's next of kin, it flags immediately. Your sister is on borrowed time. The question is, who else signed those checks? Does she have check signing authority? I don't know, I said. If she doesn't, Rowan said, his voice turning grim, then she forged a board member's signature, or she has an accomplice. I stared at the dashboard. Okay, thank you, Rowan. Eleanor, he added, before I could hang up. You need to talk to your parents. If the company is registered at their house, the IRS is going to come knocking on their door. Not hers. They are in the blast zone. I drove straight to 42 Maple Drive. It was 7 in the evening. The house looked warm and inviting, the porch light glowing soft yellow. It was the house where I had learned to ride a bike, where I had cried over breakups, where I had learned that keeping the peace was the highest virtue. I let myself in with my key. My parents were in the living room watching a game show. Eleanor? Mom looked up, surprised. Her face hardened instantly. I thought we told you not to come over until you apologized to your sister. Turn off the TV, I said. Something in my voice made Dad reach for the remote. The room went silent. I walked over to the coffee table and placed the printout of the Northgate Event Partners registration on top of Dad's coaster. "What is this?" Dad asked, putting on his reading glasses. "Look at the address." "Dad," I said. He squinted. 42 Maple Drive. That is here. "And look at the registered agent. Mallory Coleman," he read. He looked up, confused. "I don't understand. Why is Mallory running a business from our house?" "Because she is hiding it," I said. "Northgate Event Partners is a shell company. She uses it to funnel money out of the Bright Brook Children's Fund. She hires herself, pays herself, and sends the invoices to this address so her husband doesn't see them." "That is ridiculous," Mom snapped. She stood up, her hands trembling. "Mallory helps that charity. She dedicates her life to those children. Why are you trying to tear her down? Is this jealousy, Eleanor? Because she has a family and you have this?" She gestured vaguely at my career clothes. "She has stolen $48,000 in salary she never told you about," I said, my voice rising. "And God knows how much in fake vendor fees, and she forged my signature on a bank account to hide the money. Mom, she is a criminal, and she has made your house an accomplice." "Stop it," Mom screamed. She covered her ears. "I don't want to hear it. She is a good mother." "She is a thief," I shouted back. "And you are helping her." Did you know? Did you know she was using this address?" "We just handle her mail," Dad said, his voice shaking. "She said it was for privacy. She said she didn't want donors showing up at her house with the kids there. She asked us to keep a few boxes of files. We didn't open them." "You kept files?" I walked to the hallway closet. "Where?" "Eleanor, stop!" Mom grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly weak. She wasn't fighting me. She was holding on for dear life. "Why, Mom?" I asked, looking down at her. "Why do you let her do this? Why do you let her use you? You know she's lying. You always know." Mom crumbled. She didn't argue. She just sank onto the hallway bench and put her face in her hands. "Because she will take them away." Mom sobbed. I froze. "Take who away?" "The kids," Dad said quietly from the living room doorway. He looked 10 years older than he had a minute ago. "Theo and Lila. Every time we say no to her, every time we question her spending or tell her to get a real job, she stops coming. She blocks our number. She tells the kids we are busy. She weaponizes them. Eleanor, she holds those grandchildren hostage." I looked at my parents. I had always thought they were favorites playing enablers. I had thought they loved Mallory more. I realize now they didn't love her more. They feared her more. They were hostages in their own home, paying ransoms in the form of free babysitting, loans, and silence, just to get a glimpse of their grandchildren. "She told us," Mom wept, "that if we didn't support her with this consulting thing, she would move to Florida. She said she would take the kids and we would never see them grow up." "So you let her commit fraud at your kitchen table," I said. I felt a wave of pity, but it was cold pity. "You let her destroy my credit and my sanity because you were scared she would move." "We didn't know it was illegal," Dad whispered. "We just thought it was messy." "It is illegal," I said. "And the auditors are coming. You need to get those boxes of files out of this house. No, wait, do not move them. If you move them, it is tampering with evidence. Just do not touch them." I walked to the door. "Where are you going?" Mom asked, looking up with tear-streaked eyes. "I am going home," I said. "I can't fix this for you. Mom, you have to decide if seeing Theo and Lila is worth going to jail for." I left them in the silence of their complicity. As I walked to my car, a figure stepped out from the shadows of the garage. I jumped, dropping my keys. It was Brent. He was leaning against his SUV, smoking a cigarette. I had never seen Brent smoke in the 10 years I had known him. "I saw your car," he said. His voice was hollow. "Did you know about the address?" I asked. "No," he said. I knew she had mail coming here, but I didn't know it was a company. He took a long drag. I checked my credit report today, after you showed me yours. And? Score is 410, he said. She maxed out 3 cards I didn't know existed, and there is a lien on the truck. Brent, you have to leave her, I said. You have to take the kids and go. I can't, he said. She threatened to tell the court I was abusive. She said she would paint me as an alcoholic. She said she has a diary documenting every drink I have had for 5 years. She is lying, I said. She is projecting. I know, Brent said. He flicked the cigarette into the driveway. But I realized something. She used your name on that bank account because she had already burned mine. She ran out of victims in her own house, so she moved to yours. She is sick, Brent. No, he said, turning to get into his car. She is just hungry, and she doesn't care who she eats. The next morning, I took a personal day. I couldn't focus on spreadsheets. I had an appointment at the Seabrook Financial Wellness Center at 10 o'clock. The counselor was a woman named Sarah, ironically, who listened to my story with a professional lack of surprise. This is called coerced debt, she explained. It is a form of domestic violence. You have taken the right first steps. The police report is crucial. The fraud affidavit is crucial. Now, we need to lock down the perimeter. We spent 2 hours going through every financial artery in my life. We set up 2-factor authentication on everything. We put a freeze on check systems so no new bank accounts could be opened. We drafted a letter to the credit bureaus. You have to be prepared for the fallout, she warned me. When the bank investigates the joint account, they will go after the primary holder. Your sister is going to get hit with a demand for repayment and criminal charges. She will lash out. She will try to make you recant. I won't recant, I said. Good, but you need to be safe. Do not meet her alone. Do not sign anything she gives you. And if she offers you money to make it go away, do not take it. That is accepting a bribe and implicates you in the scheme. I left the office feeling armored, but heavy. I was building a fortress. But inside the fortress, I was alone. I arrived back at my apartment building at 1 o'clock. As I walked into the lobby, I froze. Mallory was sitting on one of the velvet lobby chairs. She wasn't alone. Theo and Lila were with her. Theo was playing a game on a tablet. Lila was coloring in a book. Mallory looked up as I entered, her face arranging itself into a bright, hopeful smile that didn't reach her eyes. Surprise, she said. We were just in the neighborhood getting ice cream, and the kids begged to see Auntie Elle. It was a lie. My apartment was 20 minutes from their school and nowhere near an ice cream shop. It was an ambush. She had brought human shields. Auntie Elle! Lila jumped up and ran to me. She wrapped her sticky arms around my legs. I looked down at her innocence, and my heart shattered. She had no idea her mother was using her as a prop in a felony investigation. Hi, sweetie, I said, smoothing her hair. I kept my voice gentle. I missed you. Can we come up? Theo asked, looking up from his screen. Mom said you have the good juice. I looked at Mallory. She raised her eyebrows, challenging me. Dare you? Her eyes said. Dare you turn them away? You can come up for 10 minutes, I said, but then I have a meeting. We rode the elevator in silence. The tension was so thick I could taste it, metallic and sour, in my apartment. I poured juice for the kids and set them up at the kitchen island with some crackers. I turned on the TV for them. Then I walked to the window on the far side of the room. Mallory followed me. What do you want, Mallory? I asked, keeping my voice low so the kids wouldn't hear. I want you to stop this madness, she whispered. Mom called me. She said you threatened them. You accused me of stealing? I didn't accuse you, I said. I found the documents. Northgate Event Partners, 42 Maple Drive. It is over. Mallory, she flinched, but recovered quickly. It is a legitimate business. I coordinate events. You coordinate theft, I said, and you forged my signature, and Brent told me about the debt cycling. Brent doesn't know anything, she hissed. He is useless. I went to a financial counselor today, I said. I turned to face her. I am going to offer you one thing, not because you deserve it, but because of them. I nodded toward the kids. What? She asked, her eyes narrowing. If you come clean, right now, today, I will help you find a lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer, and I will help you find a debt counselor. I will pay for the initial consults. But you have to stop. You have to sign a document admitting that I had nothing to do with the bank account or Northgate. You have to exonerate me, and you have to surrender to the audit. Mallory stared at me. For a second, I saw the little sister I used to know. I saw the fear behind the mask. But then the mask slammed back down. You think you are so superior, she said, her voice shaking with rage. You think you can just buy me off with a lawyer? You are the one who is ruining us. Eleanor, if you hadn't gone to the bank, none of this would be happening. It would have happened eventually, I said. Math always wins. I have proof, she said suddenly. Proof of what? Proof that you agreed to be the partner in Northgate, she said. A twisted smile curled her lips. I have emails from your account, approving the formation, approving the bank account. I have screenshots of texts where you asked for a cut of the profits. My blood ran cold. Those don't exist. I can make them exist, she whispered. I have your old laptop. Eleanor. The one you gave Mom 3 years ago? You never wiped the hard drive. I have access to your old email archives. It wouldn't be hard to edit a few things. I stared at her. She wasn't just desperate. She was malevolent. She was willing to frame me to save herself. That is forgery, I said. Again. It is my word against yours, she said. And everyone knows you are the cold, career-obsessed sister who cares more about money than family. Who do you think the jury will believe? The struggling mother trying to do good for charity? Or the project manager who abandoned her niece and nephew to go on a luxury vacation? Get out, I said. What? Get out of my house, I said. Take the kids and get out. You are kicking us out? She raised her voice, wanting the kids to hear. You are kicking Theo and Lila out? I am kicking you out, I said. I walked to the door and opened it. Now, Theo looked up, scared. Mom? Come on. Kids, Mallory said, her voice dripping with martyred sorrow. Auntie Eleanor is tired of us. She wants us to leave. She gathered them up. As she passed me, she leaned in. You are going to regret this. I will burn you down. Eleanor, I swear it. The door clicked shut. I locked it. Then I engaged the deadbolt. Then I slid the heavy furniture chair in front of the door. I sank to the floor, shaking. She had my old laptop. She could manufacture evidence. She could make it look like I was the mastermind and she was the victim. My phone buzzed. I looked at it, terrified it was her. It wasn't. It was an email. From Cynthia Rourke, board member, Brightbrook Children's Fund. Subject: Urgent request for meeting regarding audit findings. I opened it, my hands trembling. Dear Ms. Coleman, in the course of our internal audit of the Brightbrook Children's Fund, your name has appeared on several significant financial documents regarding vendor payments to Northgate Event Partners. Specifically, we have an email correspondence, forwarded to us by Mallory Coleman, in which you appear to authorize the invoicing structure. We need to speak with you immediately to clarify your role in these transactions before we turn our findings over to the district attorney. Please come to the Brightbrook office tomorrow at 9 a.m. I dropped the phone. She had already done it. She hadn't just threatened me in my living room. She had already planted the evidence. She had forwarded fake emails to the board. Painting me as the one authorizing the invoices, she had anticipated my move. She knew the audit was coming, and she had set me up as the fall guy. You did this. A text from Mallory popped up on the screen a second later. I stared at the words. She wasn't talking about the audit. She was talking about the war. I stood up. The fear evaporated, replaced by a cold, crystalline clarity. She wanted a fight? She wanted to drag me into the mud? She forgot one thing. I was a project manager. I documented everything. And while she had my old laptop, I had something she didn't have. I had the truth. And I was going to that meeting not to defend myself, but to bury her. The drive to Mariner Heights was a short one, but it felt like crossing a border between two warring nations. The Brightbrook Children's Fund offices were located in a glass-fronted building overlooking the marina, a place that smelled of salt air and money. It was the kind of place where people spoke in hushed tones about endowments and legacies, not about overdraft fees and stolen identities. I parked my car and checked my appearance in the rearview mirror. I looked tired. There were dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer could hide, but my jaw was set. I had my folder, I had my laptop, I had the truth. I walked into the lobby at exactly 9 a.m. The receptionist, a young woman with a polite smile, directed me to the conference room at the end of the hall. Cynthia Rourke was waiting for me. I recognized her from the local newspaper society pages. She was a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair cut in a sharp bob and a posture that suggested she did not suffer fools. She did not stand up when I entered. She simply gestured to the chair opposite her. "Ms. Coleman," she said. Her voice was cool, detached. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." "Thank you for seeing me," I said. Sitting down, I placed my folder on the table. "Let us get straight to the point," Cynthia said. She slid a piece of paper across the polished mahogany table. "This is an email we received 3 months ago. It was sent from an address listed as Eleanor Coleman, consulting@gmail.com. It authorizes a transfer of $12,000 to Northgate Event Partners for strategic logistical support for the spring gala." I looked at the document. The email address was fake. I had never owned that domain, but the signature block was mine, or a copy of it. It had my LinkedIn profile link, my cell phone number, and a title: External Strategy Advisor. "I did not send this," I said clearly. "And I am not an external strategy advisor. I have never held a title with Brightbrook or Northgate." Cynthia raised an eyebrow. "We also have correspondence regarding this past weekend. An email from the same address stating that you would be personally on site to oversee the childcare logistics and to sign the final vendor reconciliation forms." "Vendor reconciliation forms?" I asked. "Yes," Cynthia said. "Mallory Coleman, our program consultant, informed us that Northgate required a wet signature from their primary partner, you, to release the vendor hold. She was quite insistent that you would be there." The puzzle pieces slammed together. The babysitting request, the non-refundable pressure. Mallory didn't just need me to watch the kids. She needed me physically in the room to sign a document I would have barely read, validating her shell company's invoices before the audit caught up to her. "Ms. Rourke," I said, opening my folder. "I need you to look at this." I laid out the timeline I had prepared. "This is a screenshot of my text conversation with Mallory from Friday night," I said, pointing to the image. "You can see clearly that I refused to come. I stated I was going to Maine. Here is the receipt for my hotel in Kestrel Cove, time-stamped for Friday evening. Here is the GPS data from my car." I slid the next page over. "And here is the fraud affidavit I filed with the Harbor Point Community Credit Union 2 days ago, alleging that Mallory Coleman forged my signature to open a joint account used to funnel funds. And here's the police report number." Cynthia picked up the police report. Her expression shifted. The cool detachment cracked, replaced by the sharp, alarming realization that she was sitting across from a witness, not a co-conspirator. "She forged your signature on a bank account?" Cynthia asked. "Yes," I said, "and she forged this email. I suspect if you check the IP address of that Gmail account, you will find it originates from 42 Maple Drive, my parents' house, where Mallory's vendor, Northgate, is registered." Cynthia went silent. She closed her eyes for a brief second, likely calculating the legal exposure for the charity. "This is not an administrative error," Cynthia said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "This is embezzlement." "Yes," I said. "It is." At that moment, The door to the conference room banged open. We both jumped. Mallory stood in the doorway. She looked wild. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she was wearing a tracksuit that looked like she had slept in it. Her eyes were wide, darting between me and Cynthia. "I knew it!" Mallory screamed. "I knew you would be here!" "Mallory," Cynthia said, standing up, "you cannot be in here. This is a private meeting." "Private?" Mallory laughed. A high, hysterical sound. She stormed into the room. "She is lying to you. Cynthia, Eleanor is obsessed with me. She has been jealous her whole life. She is trying to ruin my reputation because I am the one doing something good for the world while she sits in her cubicle." She turned to me, pointing a shaking finger. "You are sick. Eleanor, you are making all this up. The bank account was for your benefit. The emails were, we talked about them. You told me to send them." "I never told you to send fake emails. Mallory," I said, staying seated. I refused to match her energy. "And I never agreed to be your partner in Northgate." "Northgate is a legitimate business," Mallory yelled. She slammed her hand on the table. "I worked my butt off for this charity. I brought in thousands of dollars. And now you are trying to frame me over a paperwork error?" "Ms. Coleman," Cynthia said, her voice like ice. "Please lower your voice or I will call security." "Call them," Mallory challenged. "Call the police. I have nothing to hide. My sister is a liar who abandons her family. She left my children alone all weekend to go run some vendetta against me." "You weren't home all weekend," I said quietly. "You were at a hotel, pretending to be home." Mallory froze. "I called you," I said. "I heard the elevator. I heard the valet." "You are crazy," Mallory whispered. "You are hearing things." "Mallory," Cynthia said, "I have seen the police report. I have seen the affidavit. You are terminated, effective immediately, and you need to leave this building before I have you escorted out." "Terminated?" Mallory's face crumpled. The rage dissolved into panic. "You can't terminate me. I have the donor list. I have the passwords. You need me. We need a forensic accountant," Cynthia said. She reached for the phone on the wall. "Security, please come to conference room B. We have a disturbance." "No!" Mallory lunged for the folder on the table. "Give me that." I grabbed it before she could. She clawed at my hand, her nails scratching my skin. But I held on. "Stop it! Mallory!" I shouted. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway within seconds. They were large, calm men who clearly had experience with workplace outbursts. "Ma'am," one of them said, taking Mallory by the arm, "you need to come with us." "Don't touch me!" Mallory shrieked. "She is stealing my life. That is my sister. She is destroying me." They dragged her out. She wasn't walking. She was being hauled, her feet dragging on the carpet, screaming accusations that echoed down the hallway. It was a guttural, raw sound that made my stomach turn. It was the sound of a narcissist facing the one thing they cannot survive: accountability. Cynthia stood there, smoothing her blazer. She looked shaken. "I apologize," Cynthia said. "That was unfortunate." "She is desperate," I said. "She knows it is over." "We will cooperate fully with your identity theft claim," Cynthia said, "and we will be conducting our own investigation. I suggest you retain counsel, Ms. Coleman, not for defense, but to protect yourself from whatever she tries next." I walked out of the office 10 minutes later. My hand was stinging where she had scratched me. As I reached the elevator, the doors opened, and I saw Mallory. She was standing in the lobby with the security guards, waiting for them to retrieve her bag from her desk. When she saw me, she didn't scream. She walked right up to me, ignoring the guard who tried to block her. "You think you won?" she hissed. Her eyes were red, but dry. "I wasn't trying to win," I said. "I was trying to stop you from robbing me." "I needed you there," she whispered. "I needed you to sign the loan." "What loan?" I asked. "The bridge loan," she said. "From the private lender. I had it all set up. Northgate needed a $50,000 infusion to pay back the charity before the audit started. The lender required a co-signer with a 700 credit score and proof of stable income. You were going to sign it. You always sign things when I tell you to. I stared at her. You were going to make me co-sign a $50,000 high-interest loan? Without telling me what it was? I would have paid it back, she insisted. Once the next grant came in, it was just a bridge. But you had to go to Maine. You had to be selfish. I saved my own life, I said. If I go to jail, Mallory said, stepping closer. It is your fault. Remember that. You sent the mother of your niece and nephew to prison. No, I said. You did that when you wrote the first fake check. The guard pulled her back. That is enough, ma'am. Outside. I watched her go through the revolving doors. She looked small against the gray sky. I went home. I didn't cry. I felt a strange, hollow calm. I spent the afternoon doing the paperwork of detachment. I scanned the police report and sent it to Marion at work, updating my HR file. I called the credit bureaus again to ensure the lock was solid. Then, I wrote the letter. I sat at my kitchen table, the same place where I had once helped Mallory plan her wedding, and I wrote to my parents. Dear Mom and Dad, effective immediately, I am ceasing all contact with you and Mallory. I cannot have a relationship with people who prioritize the appearance of family unity over my safety and financial survival. Do not contact me at work. Do not come to my apartment. Do not ask me for money. I have filed police reports regarding the fraud. If you attempt to interfere with the investigation or harass me into dropping the charges, I will file for a restraining order. I love you, but I will not be set on fire to keep you warm anymore. Eleanor. I mailed it. Certified. Return receipt requested. That night, my phone rang. It was Brent. I answered. She is gone, Brent said. His voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. She came home, packed a bag, and went to your parents' house. She said I was unsupportive. Where are the kids? I asked. They are here, Brent said. She tried to take them, but I stood in the doorway. I told her if she tried to put them in the car, I would call the police and show them the bank statements. She didn't fight me. She just left. Good, I said. You did the right thing. I am going to file for separation, Brent said. I can't do this. The debt. It is enormous, but I am scared. She is going to tell them I am a monster. She is going to poison them against me. She will try, I said. But kids are smart. They see who is calm. They see who is safe. You need a lawyer. Brent, yesterday. You need a custody order that prevents her from taking them out of the state. I don't want to hurt her, Brent said, his voice cracking. She is still their mom. You don't have to hurt her, I said. You just have to stop her from hurting them. That is not the same thing. Okay, he said. Okay, thanks. I hung up. I made a cup of tea. I sat in the silence of my apartment, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. It was the first time in a week I felt truly safe, but the silence didn't last. At 8 o'clock, there was a knock on my door. I checked the peephole. It was Gail and Dennis, my parents. They weren't screaming. They weren't banging. They were standing there holding a large, battered suitcase. I debated not opening it, but the suitcase confused me. Were they moving in? Were they bringing my old things? I opened the door, but I didn't step back. I filled the frame. What is this? I asked. Eleanor, Mom said. Her eyes were swollen. She looked fragile, like a piece of paper left out in the rain. We need to talk. Please, just 5 minutes. I sent you a letter, I said. You haven't gotten it yet, but it says I don't want to see you. Please, Dad said. He sounded desperate. We are trying to fix this. We found a solution. A solution to what? To the trouble, Dad said. To the legal thing. We can make it go away. I hesitated. Curiosity is a dangerous flaw. I stepped back and let them in. They walked into my living room and set the suitcase on the coffee table. Dad unzipped it, It was full of file folders, the files from the closet, the evidence. "We brought them to you," Mom said eagerly. "So you can see, we aren't hiding anything." Dad pulled out a single crisp document from a blue folder. He held it out to me with a trembling hand. "We talked to a lawyer friend," Dad said. "An old buddy of mine. He said if we can prove that the money Mallory used was a loan, a family loan, then it is not theft. It is just a civil dispute. It is just a misunderstanding." I took the document. It was titled Family Loan Agreement. It stated that I, Eleanor Coleman, agreed to borrow $75,000 from the Coleman Family Trust, an entity that didn't exist, and that I had authorized Mallory Coleman to manage these funds for investment purposes in Northgate Event Partners. The document was dated 3 years ago. There was a line for my signature. It was blank. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "It is the fix," Mom said, her eyes wide and pleading. "If you sign this, we can backdate it. We can show it to the bank. We can show it to the charity. It proves you gave her permission. It proves it wasn't stealing." I stared at them. They weren't here to apologize. They weren't here to return the money. They were here to ask me to commit perjury. They wanted me to sign a fraudulent legal document that would make me liable for the debt, just to keep Mallory out of jail. "You want me to say I borrowed the money?" I asked. "You want me to take the debt? $75,000? "We will help you pay it back," Dad said quickly. "We will take out a second mortgage. We will chip in every month. But Eleanor, if you don't sign this, she is going to prison. She is your sister. Think of the children. Do you want them visiting their mother through glass?" "You are asking me to destroy my life to save hers," I said. "You are asking me to become a criminal so she can stay a victim." "It is just paper," Mom cried. "It is just a signature. You have done it before." "No," I said. "I haven't." I looked at the document. It was the physical embodiment of my family's dynamic. I was the resource. Mallory was the consumer, and my parents were the brokers who made sure the transaction went through. No matter the cost, I ripped the paper in half. The sound was loud in the quiet room. "Eleanor!" Mom screamed. I ripped it again, and again. I let the pieces flutter to the floor. "Get out," I said. "You are making a mistake," Dad said, his face turning red. "You are destroying this family." "The family is already destroyed," I said. "Mallory blew it up. You are just trying to use my body to plug the hole." I walked to the door and held it open. "Take the suitcase," I said, "and leave. If you don't leave in 10 seconds, I am calling the police and telling them you are attempting to suborn perjury." Dad grabbed the suitcase. He looked at me with a hatred I had never seen before. It was the hatred of a weak man who has been forced to face his own failure. Mom stopped in the doorway. She grabbed my hand. Her fingers were cold. "Eleanor," she sobbed, "please, you are breaking my heart." I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had taught me to tie my shoes, who had made me soup when I was sick, but who was now willing to sacrifice me on the altar of her other daughter's chaos. I pulled my hand away. "No, Mom," I said softly. "I am breaking the pattern." I closed the door. I locked it. I stood there for a long time, listening to their footsteps fade down the hall. I was alone. I had no parents. I had no sister. I had a decimated credit score and a legal battle ahead of me. But as I walked to the window and looked out at the lights of Harbor Point, I realized something. I wasn't holding the weight anymore. I had put it down. I went to my desk. I opened my laptop. I booked a new trip, not to Maine, to somewhere further, somewhere with no cell service at all. I was finally, truly, non-refundable. Thank you so much for listening to this story. It was a journey through the dark side of family loyalty, and I hope it resonated with you. I know many of you have faced similar pressures, maybe not to the extent of $75,000 in fraud, but the pressure to say yes when your soul is screaming no. I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below letting me know where you are listening from. Are you in the US, Europe, Asia? I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoyed this narrative, please consider subscribing to Revenge Stories. We post new, realistic dramas every week that explore the complexities of human relationships and the satisfaction of standing up for yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were Eleanor? Would you have signed the paper? Let's talk about it. Until next time, stay safe, set your boundaries, and never sign anything without reading it first.